Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Movie Screeners Club podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Falk. The Movie Screeners Club is brought to you by Designing Hollywood Productions, in association with Gardena Cinema. If you want to win the chance to have your short film screened in a huge theater and the opportunity to be interviewed on our podcast, please submit your film today on our website, themoviescreenersclub.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen Sall and I'm the co-writer, co-producer, and director of the Reboot, a Fight Club story. And the Reboot was really inspired by the infiltration of all the sequels and reboots and spin-offs that we have today. And we kind of just made it in our comedic slant as to what would happen if, executives didn't take any risks and tried to make Fight Club today in 2024.
It's so funny and it's so realistic.
Yeah, it was fun. And actually, if it was in the days of DVDs, we could have we have so many outtakes that we didn't use. There's like a riff on Cheesecake Plus. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, but my actors I let them improv and gave them a lot of space, and they really ran with it and did a great job. And we were just chuckling all the way on the sidelines as they were just kind of ping-ponging away.
Mm-hmm. So are you is comedy your genre, or do you venture out?
Oh no, I venture out.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I have a romantic comedy, but I honestly like dark. Like I love Black Mirror, if we're talking about current things. It's just, when Ellen and I wrote the Reboot, and I think we wrote it Easter. We were actually supposed to be working on something else, and in true fashion, we just ended up doing something completely different. Ellen is my co-writer. We've written a bunch of projects together. I can go through all those too. But we were meeting, and then we just started talking about oh my God, they're rebooting like this and they're rebooting that. And so we wrote it, or we started talking about it, and I was like, let's write it. And then we wrote it and we filmed it June 9th in a volume, like an LED, which is an interesting, that was my first experience. And I can talk about that if curious.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we picture locked July 9th, because I really wanted it just to, in this case, I have other shorts, one is making the festival rounds right now, but this one I was I just want to get it on the web because everyone's rightfully so, moaning and groaning, and let's give them a little humor about this. So hence Reboot.
And I was just thinking about, just because all those Timothy Chalamet photos came up of him in some new movie.
Yeah.
The one where he has the short hair, whatever, and the little mustache.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, oh, can't he take a break? And I like that in this Reboot, he plays every character. They're like,
oh yeah,
just hired Timothy Chalamet for everything.
Exactly.
He's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's it like working in a volume stage? I mean, that's like Disney level, huge. I mean, that seems like a big production, You say volume.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thought too. And I will say, in full transparency, what happened was my cinematographer who I've worked with, and we're doing another short before the end of the year, but I knew he's very, very experienced and just so kind to even work with me. But I said to him, I was like, look, it's two office settings, we don't have a ton of money. We did this for peanuts, and what can we do to make something exciting for you? And I thought maybe he might want to use a new camera, or maybe he might want a new lens and try it on an iPhone. And he was like, let's shoot it in a volume. And my stomach just dropped, because I'm like, okay, yes, I have producer experience, so I've been on set, but directing, and there's osmosis, but it was still a learning curve. But I was like, well, if he trusts me, then I can do it. And so there's a lot of smaller LED stages. And so he did some researching around. I put my producer hat on and did some researching around, and ended up connecting with analog artists or Wet Studios. And so we worked with them, and they were really game, and they went above and beyond, because a lot of times, when it comes to LED stages, people are trying to create these fantastical worlds, and we were creating something really simple. So we were almost taking the most simple set on Unreal Engine and extracting. I have this cool video that I took where there was like extra plants and like
Mhm.
we were digitally moving the plant like into the trash. And so it was really helpful because everything was shot in one day. We had practical elements in there, but it enabled us to like keep everything under one roof and really self-contained and move really quickly.
Is it tough to kind of get in the director's mindset when everything around you is really like sci-fi-esque, kind of like futuristic looking? If you're not like on set,
No,
or
not
what?
necessarily, because really I mean, it's no different really than like a green screen. You just
Mhm.
have this big, like curved, or like a movie theater screen.
Right.
There's just like an LED panel behind that. I
Mhm.
mean, the same equipment. These guys are unique because now they have like a wet floor and like water and, electricity aren't always the great thing, but they have that. But the thing that happens with the volume is, at least in my case, was like having to make choices because we were limited with the camera that we were using and the lens that we were using, because again, we were really low budget, so we had to just kind of use what we were given.
Mhm.
And so because of the way that when you like I couldn't really push in and I wanted that shot, so I had to figure out another way. And I also I was shooting knee up because otherwise like it would get too fisheyed, and that worked for Poor Things, but like that wasn't
Mhm.
something that I was doing on my film. So
Right.
I had like limitations as well to
Mhm.
work around. Almost like in a certain way, if you've ever worked on like a VR project, like certain things like that too. We
Yeah.
just have to kind of figure it out.
So what do you look for when casting a comedy short? Are you are you trying to see like how they deliver comedic lines, or are you seeing them as a total person? Are you funny? Do you get what we're making a joke about? That sort of thing. What are you looking for?
I think it's a lot of things. In some cases, on both these projects, they're people that I've worked with previously in different
Mhm.
capacities. And then also seeing how they like interact with everybody else. I mean, I maybe I'm generalizing a bit, but I do feel like comedic actors are always willing to like roll up their sleeves and really just kind of roll with the punches, not like so precious. Now, again, there's like an exception to every rule, and not to like diminish like drama actors or whatever, but it's and also just like making sure there's like diversity on camera. And I mean, just like making sure people don't look the same, making sure
Mhm.
that I am like really representing. Like, I really wanted to really emphasize how, there's these very young executives. And I guess taking a step back, it's like basically what happened was I was like listening to an interview. I think it was like Albert Brooks and somebody, but they were just talking about back in the day, it was like the head of the studio was a true creative, like Jack
Mhm.
Warner or something like, and they literally were the one that were greenlighting everything. And now, as these streaming companies that are, the backbone of them are technology companies where typically they don't come from that world. They come from a world where like it's committee based.
Mhm.
And actually, a good representation, I think it's second to last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Mhm.
Larry David was going around trying to sell a show. And like that was another inspiration, like when he was out there trying to pitch it. And so a lot of these are done by committee. And you know how the old saying is like when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, you
Right.
spoil the soup. And so it was like, let's just really like go hard on that. And so the other thing was like I just wanted to find like really young actors. And you just never know. Like for example, the other short that I have kind of out in the world, it's called This Could Have Been an Email, and it's a
Mhm.
dark workplace comedy. And so Becky, who's the star, who actually is in like all these BMO ads recently with Lamont from
Mhm.
Abbott Elementary.
Hmm.
Becky and her and Sam they do their own comedy thing, and they were in my short, and they were doing something at the Lyric Hyperion, and I went to it, and Alex did the stand up
Mhm.
before Becky and Sam's act. And so when I was casting for this, I was like, oh, Alex Reed's really young, so I'm going to reach out to Alex. And because I had worked with Becky and Sam and they had a great experience, it was like just really, I was like, Alex, do you want to do this? And
Right.
so Alex was on board.
Mhm.
So you never know like where you're gonna find people,
Mhm. Yeah.
especially in LA.
Yeah, totally. I think like the perfect people kind of fall in your lap
sometimes.
Yeah.
So why Fight Club? Did you like that movie? Or were you just
I love
imagining
that
like,
movie. I mean, love
I
David
mean, like
Fincher.
particularly, or like, did you imagine that couldn't be made today? Like,
Yes. Well,
mhm,
so there is a quote where Ed Norton says, like, recently, I think it was this thing called The Talks, and he said, like, I don't think Fight Club could be made today. And
mhm,
I agree with that too. I also like love David Fincher and his early work. I mean, fantastic. And um it just kind of was like a fun one because it's such an iconic film. I think people that really haven't even watched it know it and they know the line, like, don't talk about Fight Club. So it
mhm,
had this universality to it, versus like finding some obscure film and then somebody really not understanding the joke. So
mhm.
that was part of it too.
Why do you think that? I mean, did he explain why he thought that it couldn't be made today, or do you have any theories? Is it just
Politics?
too?
No, I don't know.
I guess,
Like,
but is it too like gritty? Like, can people? Do you think that like people just can't w just watch something for the sake of watching it? You know?
yeah, I don't know. There was a rumor going around that they wanted to make a female version of Fight Club.
I heard about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, some things are best left untouched,
Mhm.
Like everything doesn't have to be remade. Like some
Yeah.
things are just better as the original.
Yeah, well, that was that whole thing with, like, The Office, they wanted to bring it back or something like that, and Steve Carell was like, "It just can't be made. It won't be the
Yeah.
same." And,
But
I mean,
that's a reboot too anyway, which is kind of funny
that's
because it's
true, that's
originally from the
true.
UK. So
It's true, a
just
reboot of
need
a
to
reboot
say,
of a reboot. So what's next? What's on the horizon? Another comedy?
So many things. So I did another short called This Could Have Been an Email, which I think I
Mhm.
mentioned. And that was it just screened at the Cordillera Film Festival in the end of September. And actually that festival for the second year in a row just got nominated like 25 coolest film festivals
Wow.
by Movie Maker. And it was because a friend of mine, they put it on my radar. And I will say, like, the festival like covers your hotel, gives you 3 meals a day plus like booze and
Mhm,
drinks, shuttles to and from. They screen at this really beautiful theater. So like thumbs up on that. So hopefully some more festivals for that.
mhm.
There's some more screenings in the works for the reboot coming in the next couple months. And then a couple of reps have been interested in the feature version of This Could Have Been an Email. And
Great.
so Ellen and I have that. We just need to do like a little bit of a polish. And so there's some reps that are looking at that. And then before that, so then I don't know, a number of years ago, Ellen and I wrote this romantic comedy, and it made it into the semifinals of episodic at Sundance.
Mhm. Wow.
But then a bunch of people were like, oh, it's a romantic comedy. You should write it as a feature. So then we wrote it as a feature.
Mhm,
And then I don't know, things got busy. And then I was like submitting to some female director labs, and you had to send a proof of concept or a short film. And
mhm.
so we broke it down to a short. And then just kind of, I don't know, we were doing these other two projects. But then I don't know, like a month ago, I was like, I really want to shoot another short before the end of the year. And so I was like, let's do this one. And basically, my entire team, so I had This Could Have Been an Email was my first one. And that basically 90% of the crew also did the reboot, like no questions asked. So
Wow.
then like a week or so ago, when I started, was like, okay, everything's in motion for this. I called everybody and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do another one. And no questions asked. Like nobody asked how much they're getting paid yet. Nobody asked about the script. They're just like all on board. So
Mhm.
like that feels really good that like my HODs are just like right there to support me. So we'll shoot that one like late December when things get quiet before the holidays hit. And then I actually have like a doc series that I created that's centered around food, that Erica Alexander from American Fiction is the host.
Wow.
So so we're out shopping that now. And then I still have some producer projects that I'm attached to that are like running through some of the agencies. And who knows, like I'd love for somebody to come to me with a project and a budget. And, I'm getting ready to, I would direct something that I haven't written as well. So
Wow. Cool. I mean, you kind of have your foot in everything. You're all over the place.
I mean, I think you kind of have to be, because,
Right.
unfortunately, like, there's been some queries for some like paid distribution deals for these shorts, but like they don't really I mean, I personally didn't pay myself for these first two so that I could pay all these other people. This next one has a bigger budget, which is really exciting, and it's a little bit longer. It's about 11 pages versus like 6 or 7.
Mhm.
And part of it actually takes place in New York City, so that's really exciting. But everyone, I always say like one for fun and one for food, right? You got to do the other things too. So
Mhm.
it's relevant, it's funny. If you live in LA, you know what's going on in the entertainment industry, so why not like laugh about it? And everyone loves Fight Club, or at least I hope everyone loves Fight Club. So
I think so. I think that's a
yeah.
pretty safe bet.
Even though you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club, but we're going to
Right,
talk about
we really even shouldn't be we shouldn't be talking right now.
no. And like if Brad Pitt or Edward Norton are in town, or Helena Bonham Carter, and they want to pop over,
Or Timothy Chalamet. We can,
yeah, he's too busy in New York. Like I think he's like doing 2 movies at the same time. No, I'm kidding. But oh yeah, Timothée, if Timothée wants to come,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, thanks so much, Jen.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it was great chatting with you.
Please come see the Reboot, A Fight Club Story, October 17th at Gardena Cinema. It's going to be awesome. Thanks so much.
Come to a historic single screen theater, guys. Like they're few and far between, and they're awesome. Don't miss the Gardena Theater and my film, The Reboot, A Fight Club Story.
Great. Perfect.
The Movie Screeners Club is produced by Designing Hollywood Productions in association with Gardena Cinema. If you want to win the chance to have your short film screened in a huge theater and the opportunity to be interviewed on our podcast, please submit your film today on our website, themoviescreenersclub.com. This episode was sponsored by Smoke Break Productions. Addictively entertaining.